Welcome to the July edition of Morning Book Buzz. I'm Miriam Tulio from Penguin Random House Library Marketing, and I'm grateful to be here to buzz about some of our favorite upcoming titles. I'll let my teammates introduce themselves and share what they're reading this month. And I'm reading Everything is Photograph, which celebrates the life and work of Hungarian-American photographer Andrei Kurtes.
Hi, I'm Maureen Meekins, and I have a few props today. Can't see it. I was lucky to get a galley of Stations by Louise Kennedy. So this is my first time reading her, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I was in the mood for a novel set in Ireland, and her writing has just pulled me in. So now I'm going to go back and read Trespasses when I'm done.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zetta Whiting, and this is my first morning book buzz, so I'm very excited to be here with you all. I'm reading The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden right now, and it's a historical fiction fantasy inspired by medieval France. And it's about a young duchess who hosts a unicorn hunt as a diversion so she can plot how to save her occupied realm. But she doesn't actually expect to find an actual unicorn on the hunt. So it's really entertaining so far, and I'm excited to keep reading.
Before we get into the books, I just wanted to shout out that Penguin Random House has announced a partnership with Ingram on a new initiative to expand access to backlist titles through an ongoing curated print on demand program. The program will make select titles, particularly those that are currently out of stock, indefinitely, or out of print, available to libraries where there is demonstrated demand. The initial launch of the program will begin with a curated selection of 200 backlist titles by leading authors like Harlan Coben, Janet Ivanovich, Lisa Gardner, Gary Steingart, as well as large print books, and scaling over time with a rolling edition of other titles. To learn more, you can visit the tiny URL on the screen. And just a quick reminder that all links included on our slides will be provided to you in our wrap up at the end of the program. And more exciting news, you can now order books for your library directly from our website. It's never been easier to discover new books or meet patron demand all day, every day. You can now send your Penguin Random House library marketing wish list to your Penguin Random House self-service shopping cart. So visit prhlibrary.com/order now to get started.
And please check out our newest book club brochure, which features suggested reads, sample discussion questions, recommendations for teen and Spanish language book groups, as well as listening recommendations. And we hope that you'll browse our fall catalogs, which feature must-have fiction and nonfiction and highlight some exciting new voices for readers and listeners of every genre.
And if you haven't already, head over to our Endless Summer Reading Hub on borrowreadrepeat.com to find hot summer reading recs by genre, our summer excerpt sampler, a downloadable summer reading challenge checklist, and a giveaway to keep your patrons engaged in reading all season long. And some of you may already know about Berkeley EXO, but if not, I'm really excited to tell you about the new adult crossover imprint launching this fall with its first three books, Crash Course by Piper Lawson, Reap and Sow by Charlotte B. Plum, and Drown the Bones by Alexandra Kennington. From fresh, flirty contemporaries to intense, fast-paced fantasies and everything in between, these books are just the type for your patrons craving something in the new adult space. And you can learn more by visiting our website.
And as many of you know, our books are available in multiple formats. And on this slide, we have a key code for these different formats. The little orange E means that there's actually an e-galley available for request.
I will start with a little name that you might all recognize, David Byrne. Yes, the David Byrne, the co-founder of the legendary Talking Heads. And in Sleeping Beauties, Byrne, the incomparable creative force, has given us a brilliant and inspiring reckoning with how breakthroughs across the arts and sciences get forgotten and how they get rediscovered. If I could have added two books to my current read, this would be my second. I'm reading this right now in bites because each artist or creative idea that Byrne presents can be read individually. And each time I go back to a chapter, it's a different sort of inspiring. For example, the continental drift. This idea was proposed in 1912 in a book by Alfred Wegener, a German astronomer, but not confirmed for another 50 years in the 1960s. Or Johann Sebastian Bach, whose compositions were once viewed as only teaching and practice exercises and not music that anyone would actually want to listen to. So, only to be resurrected as one of the greatest composers of all time by the few that championed his works over the course of those decades. I could go on. There are so many interesting examples in this book, but I'll end by saying that it's really remarkably hopeful and it will be invaluable to anyone looking for creative inspiration in your libraries.
And next we have Abandoning a Cat by Haruki Murakami, translated by Philip Gabriel. This is a moving reflection about the author's father, and it was actually originally published in The New Yorker in 2019, which I thought was really interesting. This memoir follows Murakami's father, the son of a priest who might have become a priest himself, had a clerical error not sent him into the Second World War. Murakami's father wrote haiku and eventually became a teacher. However, as the author grew older and became a writer, he and his father found that they had little in common. They were estranged for 20 years, only reconciling on his father's deathbed. This heartfelt personal essay reflects on what it means to be a father and what it means to be a son, and focuses on themes of love versus abandonment, all set amidst the aftermath of World War II in Japan. And I think it's a must read for fans of his previous works like Kafka on the Shore and The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle.
And LeVar Burton also needs no introduction, and in his memoir, Take My Word for It, the legendary actor behind Roots, Star Trek Next Generation, and Reading Rainbow shares never before told stories from a life that has shaped generations, told at last on his own terms. As Burton honors the loved ones whose strength and resilience shaped him in this inspiring memoir, he also asks what we owe to our ancestors and to each other, reflecting on the deep necessity he's always felt advocating for liberation and equity. Generous, deeply moving, and illustrated with personal family photos, Take My Word for It is a courageous self-portrait of an iconic artist. And I'm so excited about this book, and I know your patrons will be too, but you don't have to take my word for it.
And next up, we have graphic novels. I'm really excited about this one because I recently started playing Baldur's Gate. We have Legends and Lattes, the graphic novel by Travis Baldree, adapted by Samuel Satin and illustrated by Shanti Ritgers and Sarah Webb. The New York Times bestseller and beloved, heartwarming, cozy fantasy comes to vivid life in this stunning graphic novel adaptation. After a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword. The battle-weary orc aims to start afresh, opening the city of Thune's first ever coffee shop. But old and new rivals stand in the way of success, not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is. If Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her dreams a reality, she won't be able to go it alone. After all, the true rewards of an uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way. This full color graphic novel adaptation brings the high fantasy and low stakes of this beloved story to vibrant life as it's never seen before. I think this is a really great pick for any D&D players looking for stories set in similar worlds, as well as readers just looking for their next high fantasy with low stakes read.
And next we have The Midnight Library, a beautifully illustrated graphic novel edition of the global phenomenon by author Matt Haig. Nora Seed's life has been going from bad to worse. Then, at the stroke of midnight, on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported to a library. There she's given the chance to undo her regrets and try out each of the other lives she might have lived, which raises the ultimate question. With infinite choices, what is the best way to live? Now, The Midnight Library is reborn as a gorgeous graphic novel that captures every iteration of Nora's lives in vivid, colorful, and immersive illustrations by Fred Fordham, the acclaimed artist behind the adaptations of To Kill a Mockingbird and Brave New World. This special visual edition is the perfect read for both longtime fans of Matt Haig and new audiences alike.
Something is Killing the Children. If that title hasn't grabbed you, I don't know what will. This is the thrilling prequel novel to the mega hit Boom Studio series by James Tynion IV and Kirsten White, where monster slayer Erica Slaughter races to solve a horrific murder before the townsfolk take matters into their own hands. This is a standalone horror, so even if readers don't know the world of Something is Killing the Children, the narrative stands on its own as a truly immersive, gory, unique piece of supernatural horror. It's perfect for fans of It by Stephen King and Stranger Things.
And next we have Rotten Heart by Kat Dunn. From the best-selling author of Hungerstone comes an intoxicating and chilling gothic horror novel that reimagines Hamlet with a seductive sapphic twist, and where the only thing more dangerous than a family secret is a mother's revenge. Odette and her best friend Cecilia grow up between two homes. Odette's mother, Lydia, is almost parasitic in her neediness, but despite her, Odette and Cecilia come of age together, free to roam and to love. When Lydia inexplicably sickens and dies, a dark veil falls. Odette's father retreats to his study while her aunt, the cold and cruel Claudine, increasingly takes charge of the household. Lost in grief and spiraling into madness, Odette disappears into the shadows, leaving Cecilia alone and with her affections tested. As Claudine is announced as Odette's new stepmother, the girls reckon with this final betrayal and a sinister presence awakens. To her horror, Odette realizes that her mother never truly left. She now haunts the manor, ready to drag long-held secrets into the light and exact revenge against those who thought her dead and gone. I think this is great for readers who loved books like Mexican Gothic and Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil, as well as fans of all things horror and supernatural.
And I have a copy of this exciting debut here next to me that I cannot wait to read. Public Access Afterworld by Jane Schoenbrum, the celebrated filmmaker of I Saw the TV Glow and Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, tells the story of a mysterious realm on the other side of our screens, a dark force that draws victims into its static, the unlikely hero called to save them and herself from this electric hell. Spanning decades and realities with an unforgettable ensemble of outcasts and nerds, especially the messy but wholly relatable Bethany, who must overcome paranoia and self-doubt to transform into a hero of our times. Public Access Afterworld will have you reading through the night and rooting for its characters to survive. A mesmerizing mashup of speculative fiction, horror, and conspiracy, it marks the arrival of a major new force in contemporary fiction by groundbreaking filmmaker who has been compared to David Lynch and Paul Thomas Anderson. This is a profound binge all night head rush of a debut, and I know that your patrons will be very excited to get their hands on it.
And last on Spine-Tingling Reads is Dead Batteries by Kate Maupin. This is about a single mom and her neurodivergent son who battle for survival and stability in a post-apocalyptic world, one that is arguably no less harsh to them than the pre-pandemic one in this gripping, one-of-a-kind debut. Ever since May's husband left, it's just been May and her autistic son with high support needs, Davis, against the world, a rather unwelcoming one that never had much patience or understanding. Then 99.9% of the population was wiped out by a virus in just a few weeks. May has kept herself and Davis alive only through the self-imposed isolation she got so good at in the before. They have their routines, and most importantly, the old battery-powered Game Boy that offers Davis familiarity and comfort in a world that's difficult to understand. One day, May runs into a stranger while out scavenging for the precious batteries that keep Davis's Game Boy alive. This stranger calls himself Bird, and he has a proposition. Supposedly, there's an entire haven of survivors nearby. Bird wants in, and he needs May and Davis to play along as a wife and child in order to guarantee himself a spot. Besides, wouldn't May want to be part of a community again? When Bird's true motivations come to light, her old life collides with the new in terrifyingly dark ways, forcing May to question how far she would go to protect her son. How long can she and Davis last until the batteries run out? I think this is a great pick for fans of post-apocalyptic narratives like Bird Box and literary dystopian novels that feel a little too real, like Station 11.
And now we turn our attention to fun series from best-selling authors. For fans of quirky and witty speculative fiction, we have Dark Reading Matter by the internationally acclaimed author Jasper Fforde. Ex-literary special ops agent Thursday Next is embarking on her eighth and final fictional adventure, and she is well aware of this fact. The problem is others are aware of it too. Old foes and new are plotting terrible revenge to disrupt the narrative and make the last Thursday Next novel, Dark Reading Matter, not just unreadable, but unpublishable. Thursday can't let that happen and needs to use all her guile and narrative trickery to unmask the antagonist. It won't be easy. Thursday faces numerous challenges, including Martians breaking out of their H.G. Wells novel, a gateway to hell opening at a Shakespeare theme park, and the book world losing its imaginative energy to big tech. Dark Reading Matter features metatextual elements and illustrations hand-drawn by Fforde, making it a unique and engaging read for longtime fans of the cult classic series and new readers alike.
And next is Alma Vampires, a brand new paranormal romance series from New York Times bestselling author Elena Armas, which I'm very excited about. This book is about an unsuspecting heiress with a target on her back who must enlist the protection of a vampire whose wealth and secrets rival her own. Valle Cepeda's life changes drastically over the course of a winter break when she goes from being an Ivy League scholarship student one day to inheriting a fortune from the mother she's never met by the next. The fate of Alma, a coveted fashion empire, is now in Val's hands. Adrian Cruz presents himself as a calculating, self-serving player in the game of who takes over Alma, but that isn't his true aim. A blood debt that chains him to a 100-year-old wound is finally being collected, and it involves Val. Furious at everyone who has tried to manipulate her, Val returns to Icarus University only to see her world has changed shape dramatically, and Adrian is now at the center of it. She doesn't trust him, but there are things only Adrian can provide: protection and a way to satiate the longing she craves more than fears. I think this is perfect for fans of Armas's debut romance book, The Spanish Love Deception, and for readers who love authors like Ali Hazelwood and Jennifer L. Armentrout.
Now it's time to get comfy with these recommended reads. Our first book is Snow This Is Love, a collection of cozy holiday romances from the authors of Disney's Meant to Be series, including Zoraida Cordova and Christina Lauren. Among the featured tales are Jasmine Guillory's Beauty and the Baking Battle, a brainy beauty and her reformed beast visions of sugar plums for their dream baking competition turn into a nightmare. Julie Murphy's Deck the Heels. Nothing says Merry Christmas like a televised fairy tale wedding produced by your not so evil stepmother. And Jesse Q. Santanto's Dreaming of a Perfect Lunar New Year. A possible curse, a meddling family, and a disastrous Lunar New Year party almost come between a couple that is meant to be.
And next we have Mr. Mendelby's Pan-Dimensional Literary Repository and Yarn by Rebecca McGee. Try saying that 3 times fast. The Midnight Library meets the 10,000 doors of January in this mesmerizing debut about a magical bookstore's staff who must risk everything to stop the unraveling of the universe. Living at the center of the universe, Mr. Mendlebee's is home to lost things, forgotten objects, and dark and dangerous items best left unseen. The seaside store keeps the universe spinning as it should, while opening its doors only to those who need it most, with one caveat. Once you've visited, you may never return. But when Violet, repository resident and personal friend to Mr. Mendleby, starts seeing ghosts, the store allows its first repeat customer, Rachel, a young woman who may be the key to unlocking the secrets hiding within Mr. Mendleby's. Haunted by an echoing knock that sounds from nowhere, the bookstore's staff enlists Rachel's help to discover what's rotten at the heart of the repository. As they do, these misfits form a bond as solid as steel and as true as their hearts. But will their little community be enough to save the bookstore and the world? I think this is perfect for fans looking for cozy fantasies and readers who love books about bookstores like The Lost Bookshop, Watermoon, and The Spell Shop.
And next we have three highly recommended picks for book groups. Another Name for Red is a moving debut novel by Amber Blazer Wardzala, contributor to the best-selling anthology Never Whistle at Night. The story follows Middle Sister, an Anishinaabe woman, as she investigates her older sister's disappearance from the reservation. Haunted by the memories of missing and murdered Indigenous women, Middle Sister's journey forces her to reconnect with her estranged community and confront the enigmatic figure of John Smith. Another Name for Red combines elements of literary mystery, family drama, and authentic Indigenous storytelling. And this novel will appeal to fans of authors like Liz Moore, Tommy Orange, and Celeste Ng.
Next up, we have Good Guys by Mindy Mesner. In a small New England town in 2008, two estranged sisters become embroiled in a war crime involving a local hero. Georgie and Jo are sisters, but they aren't close. The situation seems worse once Jo goes off to college, making it obvious she's happy about leaving Curtisville, Georgie, and their disabled father behind. Then Gary Clemens dies in the Iraq War. Gary, the son of their pastor, the hero of their hometown, and the brother of Georgie's secret girlfriend, was famous for being a good guy. But Georgie stumbles on a dark secret about Gary, and once Jo finds out, things begin to spiral out of control. The fallout will change both sisters' lives forever. In the end, Good Guys uncovers the underbelly of a small town, the darkness of patriotism and masculinity, the harm caused by blind religious fervor, and the ways these dynamics can destroy families. This book is great for fans of book club favorites like The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, which is one of my favorite books, as well as readers who enjoy dual narratives.
And Luna Phoenix Queen by Julie Oringer is a spellbinding tour de force from the best-selling author of The Invisible Bridge, a novel about varieties of infidelity, the provenance of the literary masterpiece, and the power of storytelling to shape identity and destiny. Dava and Barb Pennington, professors at Midwestern University, both harbor potent secrets. Fiction writing is his specialty, English literature is hers, but Dava is unhappy in her marriage. Luna Phoenix Queen tells its tale of artistic and marital betrayal in a chorus of voices. It is book club catnip. In a narrative that spans 4 decades and 4,000 miles, Luna Phoenix Queen illuminates the power of storytelling and explores the terror of losing the ability to make sense of our world. It's a cry of rage against our vulnerability and helplessness, an acknowledgement of the mysteries beneath the familiar surface of our world, and ultimately, if unexpectedly, a radical testament to love in its many forms. This book is perfect for fans of Ian McEwan, Lauren Groff, and Andrew Sean Greer. And on to some exciting historical fiction. From Elizabeth Kostova, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Historian, comes Mystery Play. After his beloved mother passes away suddenly, Jay Turner finds himself at a crossroads. She was always secretive, and when he returns to their Boston home to clear out her possessions, he finds an unusual item, a partially burned scrap of newspaper bearing the name Gail Brogan. Soon after, a deliveryman leaves behind a package containing a small antique volume bound in leather and two bloody footprints. The sight of the volume is chilling. As a young scholar, his mother had been given the medieval book, one of a set commissioned by Vlad Tepes, otherwise known as Dracula, just before his death in 1477. She'd always warned Jay of the dangers associated with it and had donated it to a museum before she died, yet here it is, back in his possession. Jay sets out to learn more about Gail Broden, a prominent 19th century actor whose last and most famous role was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. As Jay begins to dig deeper with the help of a mysterious woman named Rhiannon, he uncovers the frightening story of a young actress who fell under Brogan's sway long ago. Before long, Jay and Rhiannon realize that something similarly implacable is pursuing them. In this epic and riveting tale, Elizabeth Kostova takes us deep into the Gilded Age of the theater and across the Atlantic in pursuit of an ancient evil and its dramatic followers. And Jay is the son of the historian's unnamed protagonist, so there are plenty of Easter eggs for your patrons who already love the historian. But this is also perfect for anyone who loves Gothic horror and suspense.
And our next historical fiction is Odette Rising by Julianne Edwards. This is a coming of age story of a young woman in turn of the century France as she rises to find a life she'd never dreamed possible. It's 1896 in Sèvres, France, and from her bedroom window, Odette watches a funeral procession carry her father's coffin away. She is 21 and she has not left the house for 10 years. With the sudden death of her father, the walls Odette has built around herself begin to crumble. Forced into society, she discovers she is responsible for her father's considerable fortune and his celebrated stockings factory, renowned for its exquisite designs. Now Odette must try and navigate the world she has hidden from for so long. In doing so, she will excavate the secrets left behind by her father and in turn accept the shocking truth of her own identity. With the help of an unorthodox found family, she will discover all that she is capable of. Odette is a heroine for the ages, complex and flawed, but compelling and full of warmth, and we share her joy as she begins to soar. Something that I thought was really interesting about this book is that the author's work actually inspired the novel. Julianne Edwards is a psychotherapist and wrote this book partly as a testament to the bravery of her clients. And it includes themes of body image, shame, resilience, and healing.
Okay, there's a new book coming from Jane Austen. Impossible, right? No, it's not impossible. Jane Austen's The Watsons is a continuation of Jane Austen's famous unfinished novel from the best-selling author and creator of the beloved Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney mystery series, Claudia Gray. Jane Austen's unsung heroine, Ada Watson, is a privileged girl living with her wealthy aunt and uncle, absent any meaningful contact with her birth family. Like any Austen heroine, Ada's life suddenly gets turned upside down. Her uncle dies and her aunt remarries unwisely, which means Ada must return to Wiltshire and rejoin the greater Watson clan. There, she becomes an object of desire for the most eligible bachelor in the county, the proud Lord Osborne, but her own fascination alights upon Mr. Howard, the local clergyman. In the 100 pages she wrote before abandoning the novel, Austen asks, can Ada afford to neglect the fortunes of her struggling family to truly follow her heart? But Austen, and therefore her devoted fans, never discovered the answer, leaving Ada's fate undefined and open to speculation until now. As best-selling author Claudia Gray expands Ada's story into a vivid tale of love, sorrow, and, as in any Austen novel, the ways the two become intertwined for a young woman in Regency-era England. Transforming the Watsons from an unpolished draft into a riveting ensemble novel filled with romance, humor, and social commentary, Gray recaptures the spirit of the story Jane herself never had the chance to tell.
Our next book is Mindful Cooking. Three Michelin-starred chef Eric Ripert, the New York Times bestselling author of Vegetable Simple and Seafood Simple, brings together his two great passions as he explores how food can bring health, joy, mindfulness, and gratitude into our daily lives. Showcasing delicious vegetable-forward dishes from vibrant salads like radish and turnip carpaccio to hearty dishes like dan dan noodles and eggplant schnitzel, from wholesome desserts like avocado lime tart to restorative juices and teas like chrysanthemum, chamomile, and verbena infusion. Mindful cooking invites us to reevaluate the way we think about cooking and eating. While traveling to Buddhist monasteries across Japan and Korea, Repair witnessed an entirely different relationship with food than he had ever seen before, one rooted in reverence, sustainability, and intention. He noticed that every seed planted, every ingredient prepared, and every meal shared is infused with care and purpose. And in Mindful Cooking, Repair shares his discovery of temple cuisine, applying its principles to creative plant-based dishes for the home cook.
And next we have powerful nonfiction. First up, we have The Havana Syndrome by Michael Ray and Oriana Zilde Granados. This is an inside account of the mysterious attacks on U.S. officials around the world via an unseen weapon that has left dozens of victims with life-altering injuries, and the U.S. government's attempt to cover it up, with startling new evidence from an award-winning 60 Minutes team. For nearly a decade, U.S. diplomats, spies, and soldiers around the world have reported sudden, devastating neurological injuries, symptoms eerily consistent with exposure to a directed energy weapon. Victims were told their illnesses were psychosomatic. Government agencies dismissed the evidence, and the CIA insisted no adversary was behind it. As the cases grew, the media dubbed the phenomenon the Havana Syndrome. In this groundbreaking expose, 60 Minutes producers reveal the hidden history of the so-called Havana Syndrome. Drawing on more than 9 years of reporting, secret medical records, whistleblower testimony, and intelligence reports, they expose not only the technology behind the attacks, but the U.S. government's effort to downplay and deny them. Combining the pace of a thriller and the authority of rigorous investigative journalism, this book brings readers inside the lives of officers like Adam and Polly, whose careers and health were destroyed by the attacks, and Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgreen, the Pentagon investigator who risked everything to demand accountability. The Havana Syndrome is both a geopolitical saga with chilling consequences for national security and a deeply human story of betrayal and resilience. I think this book is journalism at its best, and it's also the first full account of the Havana Syndrome's history. So if you think that's something that would interest your patrons, I definitely think it's worth a read.
Pulitzer Prize winner Lawrence Wright is back with a brilliant nonfiction work in the same vein as The Looming Tower and Going Clear. His new book, Redemption, is a powerful account of the connection between a convent of cloistered nuns and condemned women on Texas's death row. The story begins in the fall of 2014 when Deacon Ronnie Lastovica visits a women's prison in Gatesville, Texas, and gives communion to the women on death row. Moved by the experience, he enlists the help of the Sisters of Mary Morningstar, a group of contemplative nuns from Waco, Texas, to visit the 7 condemned women with him. Wright explores the spiritual alliance that forms between these two groups of women. He also examines the cases of the women on death row, revealing unethical police practices and the improper forensic methods that cast doubt on their guilt. Clear-eyed, rousing, layered, and morally complex, Redemption explores the idea of retribution, spirituality, and the question of absolution. And next, from the author of the New York Times bestsellers, A Higher Call, spearhead and devotion, comes Tidal Wave, a sweeping new epic set in an untold arena of World War II. Lieutenant Ernie Paulson, a 22-year-old outdoorsman from Utah, finds himself at the controls of America's most advanced bomber, the B-24, brought to North Africa for a top-secret mission. On the far side of Europe, Lieutenant Constantine Cantacuzino, Romania's most daring ace, duels Soviet fighters on the Eastern Front while searching for purpose in an unwinnable war. In Nazi-aligned Romania, Princess Catherine Karaja walks a razor's edge between loyalty to her country and quiet defiance as German forces dig in around oil refineries in her backyard. And in the royal palace, 22-year-old King Michael of Romania, mocked and sidelined by a Nazi-backed dictator, quietly plots to seize his nation's destiny before it's lost forever. In Tidal Wave, Adam Makos brings these lives together in a saga of courage and survival set against history's most audacious air raid. What begins in disaster on August 1st, 1943, sparks bonds no one could have foreseen, alliances between enemies that will decide whether these men and women are consumed by war or seize their chance at escape and redemption. Drawn from years of extensive research and told from Makos's signature cinematic intensity, Tidal Wave reminds us that even in war's darkest hours, humanity has a way of breaking through. And this slide features a selection of best-selling and beloved authors that are returning this fall, including Rachel Smythe, Alan Bradley, Robert Greene, and Rachel Maddow, with new books for these here. There's something here for every reader and listener, from graphic novel and cozy mystery to motivational guide, American history, and travel guide.
And I am filling in for our audio expert, Jen Rubens, and I'll try to do her justice. I don't have any props, so I'm already off to a terrible start, but I can still tell you about exciting new things happening in the world of audio. As the 2026 Audio Publishers Association annual survey shows, kids' audiobooks are a growing category that should not be overlooked in your collections. Many incredible picture books are now available as audiobooks, increasing accessibility and format options for early readers and little listeners. Two new acclaimed picture books coming soon to audio that are highlights recommended for your collections are Fanny's Big Idea by Richard Michelson. A starred book review from Booklist reads, Immigration and Assimilation, Tradition, Preserving and Sharing Cultures. This book touches on many big ideas in American life. Read by Gilly Messer, Fanny's Big Idea celebrates the 100th anniversary of Jewish Book Week in an engaging biography that introduces children to the influential librarian and immigrant who originated the event. Kirkus Reviews calls it a timeless and timely tribute to the enduring power of literature and libraries to build bridges. And Others by Kobe Yamada is brought to life by two narrators, and this is the perfect addition. Back one slide. Perfect addition to picture book on audio collections. Kirkus Reviews calls the book a thoughtful storytime pick to get little ones asking big questions. And any storytime pick can be made richer by also offering the audio edition to families. And I wanted to share a couple of great summer listens read by celebrities. Tony and Emmy Award-winning actor Neil Patrick Harris reads this new audiobook and haunting Halloween modern classic from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Wonder. When all the trick-or-treating is done and children are tucked in, ghosts are drawn to one special place, the haunted playground. Ruled by Rex Magnificus, ghosts arrive not to haunt, but to play. But will the appearance of two human children interrupt their rivalry? And while Melora Hardin is no amateur, beloved for her portrayal of Jan on NBC's The Office, as well as for her roles in Monk and Transparent, just to name a few, she is the riveting voice behind The Amateur by Library Read's favorite Chris Bajalian, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Midwives and The Flight Attendant. When a young woman, a golf prodigy, kills a caddy with a stray ball at the country club, the investigation of this freak accident reveals a dark and shocking tale of secret affairs, predatory men, and a teenager on trial. Just try to press pause on this one. And that is a wrap on our July episode of Morning Book Buzz. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again on September 9th.
Thank you, everyone. Take
Thank
care.
you.